Welcome to another episode of Table Talk. My name is Lauren Brant, and I'm joined by Dave Wolf, the Executive Director of Legacy of the Plains Museum. Dave, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So we kind of know last year the pandemic affected the museum's ability to hold events. Are there any events that you're planning to bring back this year now that COVID has kind of gone down?
Yeah, we had all but one of our major events canceled last year. So, and then this spring we were unable to hold our bandana benefit, but everything else is coming back. So right now we have planned our Oregon Trail Days barbecue, the Oregon Trail Wagon Train in August. September will be a Harvest Festival, and then our High Plains Christmas, Yuletide lights, and Christmas trees, our Christmas tree decorating contest. Well, that'll be that first week in December. So all those hopefully will be good to go.
That's exciting. Yeah. So kind of back to normal, fingers crossed.
Yes.
So when you look at the effects of COVID, how did that impact the museum's staff and revenue sources last year?
Staff-wise, we had our administrative assistant resign to take another job in February. So right as we were about ready to hire a couple part-time positions to fill that, that's when COVID hit. And of course, we closed down because of the guidelines from May 17th all the way to June 1st. So I was the only employee until June 1st. And then because of the uncertainty, we didn't know what we would be able to do, what revenue would be coming in. We only hired one part-time person, so it did impact us a bit, although we were still pretty lucky to be able to continue with our services. We just had to put a couple things on the back burner, but not just staffing, volunteers. We had over half of our volunteers not feel uncomfortable coming back, which completely makes sense because the majority of them were in that vulnerable age range. Some of them have pre-existing conditions, and unfortunately we lost a couple to COVID. So that was pretty sad for us, and but lots of people had experienced and lots of organizations had experienced the same thing. But the volunteers that were able to stay comfortable came back, really did a great job for us. And so I really feel our services weren't diminished except for our events.
Okay, well, that's great then. And then when you look at still being able to provide the majority of your services to visitors, what was your attendance like with you being closed during kind of the start of the tourism season?
Yeah, if you talk to the tourism officials, Brenda and Carla here, we were ramping up to have one of the best Marches. We had really good January and February hotel revenue wise, and March was looking to be the same. The tourism people here really focused on the Colorado, that Front Range area. The eclipse showed a lot of people down there how awesome it is here to come and visit, and then it just shut down. And when we reopened, we were down 75% for attendance.
Wow.
And then it slowly got to about 50% of what we normally had seen. And I compared those to 2018, 2019 numbers. Again, our events, although we were able to hold Harvest Festival, it was down about 300 or 400 people compared to 2019. And since that event was an outside event for the most part, but still, I think people felt pretty uncomfortable coming out.
Yeah.
We got some pretty good donations that helped us, and we were able to tap into some of the CARES Act money to be able to come in and help us out, and that really kept us being able to keep that part-time person and really kind of help us pay for that. And so we were pretty lucky, but they were, some of the industry was thinking, well, 1 in 3 art galleries and museums were going to close due to COVID. And it's museum like ours, which are middle of the road. They're not the smaller ones that, have kind of a smaller overhead, or the big ones that have, millions of dollars worth of endowments. The middle of the road ones were really going to get hurt. So we're lucky.
So now, a year forward, what's visitation starting to look like as we head into tourism season this year?
Visitation was pretty slow. I'm not going to lie to you for the first quarter of this year, but it really started to ramp up after Easter, it seemed like.
Okay.
We got a lot of school groups in, which was really awesome. It was great to hear kids in here and learning stuff. So that was a kind of a big boost. Now that about 99 or 95% of our volunteer group is vaccinated, we're having a lot more volunteers be able to come back. So we're starting to see some larger groups of people coming in, RV groups traveling, and hopefully the bus tours will be coming here pretty soon. So we're pretty positive. March for Nebraska was one of the biggest tourism, or based upon kind of hotels and capacity and stuff, was the best March we've ever had as a state. So we're hoping that translates to people wanting to drive to someplace they've never been before.
Gotcha. Okay. And earlier you mentioned how you have all of these events coming back. Oregon Trail Days is always a big one for the area. With this year's 100th consecutive celebration, is there anything special planned at Legacy?
Not necessarily. We do our barbecue. We're going to take a look at the menu and maybe do something besides just hamburgers and hot dogs. Maybe just kind of branch out from there and kind of see what else we can do. I always thought it'd be kind of cool to do a real life Oregon Trail game. So we're going to see if we can get that done. So you kind of have stations, and the card game my kids got me for Christmas, and it's so fun. No one ever lives.
Yeah, I know, right?
But it's a fun game, and so I thought, why don't see if we could translate that to into kind of a real life. So you kind of roll dice and see how whether you can pass the fort, or if you get a wagon broken. For us Gen Xers that grew up with the Oregon Trail game, and there's some pretty good nostalgia there. So
I remember playing it a little bit, but I think it was phasing out when I was in school.
Oh, it was. I tried to look it up on my iPad to see if I can find the game, and there's all these new versions that it's not as fun. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of what we're hoping for. The committee has done a little bit of research through our archives and got some newspaper clippings and stuff that they're going to use. We're going to have a display here about Oregon Trail Days at the museum. So just encourage people, they go enjoy the parade and come over and have a nice little meal and support the museum. And that's the thing, the community really stepped up. We had the drive-in movies out here, worked with the Midwest Theater on that. And, the community really come out and support a lot of the nonprofits. And we're blessed to be one of the ones that a lot of people came out and support. So we want to thank them definitely for that.
Definitely. And so you mentioned that you're going to have an Oregon Trail exhibit kind of in the museum setup. What other exhibits can people expect to see when they come to Legacy?
So right now, I kind of named it, from the attic, because we have a lot of really cool things out in storage that people have not seen probably in 10, 15, 20 years. Okay. And instead of doing kind of this big exhibit like we've done in the past, and because our volunteer base is slowly starting to come back, we've kind of decided that we'll just break stuff down and put it out just for people to see. So you're going to see, like right now, we've got some cool things just out in our lobby. A 100-year-old refrigerator, an ice box, a lawnmower that does not look like a lawnmower, right? you know, a butter turner, and just things like that. And then in our rotating gallery, we've got lots of just cool things. We've got an exhibit showcasing some of our Japanese American artifacts from that will be going into the Japanese Hall. We have a Hispanic display, a Native American display, and just really some cool things, some old toys, some old kitchen appliances, a weird looking toaster, and some of the things that you'll recognize because, some of that stuff has not changed. We've got a little article on Miss Bish, who was a gentleman that dressed up in women's clothing and sang and was extremely popular in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. So we've got his piano and one of the dresses that he wore, and a little story that goes on along with that. So it's just really, really cool things that we have, and that if we don't let people see them, what's the point in having them? It's kind of the mentality. So our volunteers did an awesome job of setting it up. We just got everything kind of cleaned up, and we actually have some mannequins with clothing around our exhibits, just to kind of increase the visibility of some of our exhibits. So yeah, things like that we're looking at doing in this coming year, and then hopefully we can expand on some of this stuff for the 2000.
Yeah, definitely. So I know, aside from the indoor exhibits, the museum also has outbuildings that have a bunch of historical artifacts and stuff in there. What can people expect when they walk through those?
So our Wiedemann farmstead, it's a barn, and then a house that actually was just down the street from the museum. Picked it up and moved it over here. So the upstairs is decorated 1950s. The basement is decorated 1930s. And the cool part is, if you are from this area, you're going to know the Wiedemann name. So it's really cool when some of the school groups came by, and they would be, I think, great grandkids of David and Marie that lived there. So it's kind of cool to be able to show, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds, 1950s house where, you don't have tablets or internet or video games, or, the TV had 8 or 12 channels or 13 channels, depending on what TV you got. Yeah. So, it was kind of be able to cool. And then downstairs is 1930s and show them, this was the refrigerator, and looks a little different. And, the sausage maker and the cabbage slicer and all this sort of stuff, where I think it kind of just opens up the little kids' eyes. And then adults, they're like, oh my gosh, it's bringing back memories of grandparents' house, great grandparents' house. And then some of them, this was our house. So, Gentry Cabins, 1889. It's one of my favorite spots. It's got one of my favorite items in it. I won't tell you what that is. You have to come in and see it.
Oh, come on.
No previews, although they do have canned marshmallows, which I think is funny.
Okay.
But the other thing you have to see, but it's really good to showcase because, a lot of people read like Laura Ingswalder and the O Pioneer book and all that, so we kind of get that pioneer feel when you go through the cabin. We also have the blacksmith shop, which is a replica of a blacksmith shop that was in Gary, that is functional, although we need to get the belts lubed up and oiled so that they work properly. But during Harvest Festival and some other events, we open it up, and we got a couple gentlemen that come up and help us interpret that. Japanese Hall should be ready at the end of this year or the beginning of next year. So we're really excited about that, to be able to showcase that history here. And our ageless iron building where we have implements and tractors all the way from, the late 1800s to about 1960s is about, but you'll see tractors in there that you'll never see. I shouldn't say never see, but are very, very rare. So we're pretty lucky to be able to have them. And of course, we got our Longhorns herd. So you can always come here and take a picture with them. And occasionally you'll see a couple of our volunteers out there doing some farm work. So we've got a lot here to see, and we've got some really big plans that we're going to start fundraising here for, just to be able to expand that out and just offer I think we kind of do this holistic approach to what life was like, and we're just going to be able to highlight that even more.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun, a lot of history and walking back through time at the museum. So when visitors come, are there any COVID protocols that they should be aware of?
Right now, we're just asking you to just social distance. If you want to wear a mask, you're free to do so. But as of right now, we're lucky that we're big enough that we can keep people spaced pretty well. So we're just kind of following those CDC guidelines of still maintaining the social distance. We've got hand sanitizer out in a couple different spots. But like I said, all of our staff has been, well, we just got some new staff, so I don't know if they'll be vaccinated, but I know I've been vaccinated. Majority of volunteers have been vaccinated, so we're, safety is paramount for me, for my volunteers and our visitors. So, just kind of keep those in mind. And like I said, we're big enough that we can space out pretty well. So.
Yeah, definitely. And so aside from visiting the museum and seeing all this great history that you have on display, how can people support you? Are there like volunteer opportunities or donation opportunities for them?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You can always give donations. We're happy with that. We're going to start a big fundraising push here in the next couple of months. So if you want, a nice little block with your name on it, or with a family member's name, however you want to, we'll be getting that information out real soon and really kind of show the plan for the next 10 years. We've got some pretty ambitious goals, but if we want to add a kids area, a playground, a family area where kids can get out of the car and run around, instead of being cooped up in the car, then be able to come and see the museum. We have a couple of buildings that we want to move out here. Some smaller buildings, so another log cabin, and we're looking at doing like a school, church type of building, pathway around the area, and have some of our equipment that a lot of people don't see up close. They can kind of see from afar, but really give them a pathway. Looking at another big tractor building, equipment building, to be able to preserve some of these tractors that unfortunately we just don't have space to keep inside. So that's a big push. So donations are always welcome, and under the CARES Act and I can't remember what the new one is, you can still do individual deductions. I think it's up to $100. So, if you send in a donation, we'll write you a letter. That way you can get some tax benefit. But really, this is the legacy of everybody here. And I can't remember how long you've been here, Lauren. You've been here a couple of years before you moved.
Yeah.
But you're a part of this area, just like my kids are, just like I am, and just like Jack Preston's, who family homesteaded in the late 1800s, right? We're all a part of this. We've formed this legacy, and the legacy has formed us. So really, this is a history of everybody in the area. And so we're just trying to preserve it for future generations. And volunteer-wise, we're always looking for help with upfront docents to kind of help people get in the back and kind of show them some things. We want to do some more living history. So if people are interested in dressing up and being different characters, we'll be getting out some information about about that training meeting here probably in the next month. We'll have another volunteer training. There's always lots of things to do. So if you don't, we need help with some basic maintenance around the grounds. And so if anybody's, interested, young or old, we'll take whoever and we'll find a spot. And our archives, we're reorganizing some of our archives. So, we need volunteers for that too. So lots of cool opportunities. So if there's something,
call you and let you know that you're interested. Okay.
Yeah, they give us a call at our number is 436-1989, or they can email me at info@legacyoftheplains.org.
Okay, awesome. Sounds like we're getting back to normal, hopefully a little bit, and everybody can come out and start to enjoy some new exhibits. So
yes,
fingers crossed it stays that way throughout the rest of the year.
I know. It's for the most part, we've stayed pretty good here in Western Nebraska. And from according to the tourism state director, John Ricks, a lot of people in their surveys are saying we're going to drive and we want to go someplace we haven't seen before. And we're a perfect spot for that. It's nice and green right now. It's really gorgeous. We've got some great hiking, great attractions here. And if you're a history person or just an outdoor person, this really is the place to go. In Western Nebraska, we've got so much history here that we can showcase. We just got to get them here.
Right. Well, best of luck with that. And thank you for joining us again on this episode of Table Talk. I'm Lauren Brant, reporting for the Star Herald. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for another episode.